Hello, and welcome back to the Flatcap Recap. I am your host, Grant Reeds.
I'm your co-host, Friendly.
And today we are talking about something that's a little more on the controversial side. I don't know how much you've heard about this, but have you heard what's going on with Nikocado Avocado?
I know he does mukbang videos. Is that what that's called?
I believe it's
Um,
pronounced mukbang, but most people do say mukbang, yeah.
okay. Mukbang. I'm sure I'm butchering that. But outside of that, there is just inherent controversy with that whole genre. But as far as like the specifics of Nick, I don't really know anything about him.
Well, Nick has kind of been on a journey, and he's been on this journey for a while. When he very first started his mukbang channel, he started it as a vegan alternative to the mukbangs because they are, let's face it, they're very, very unhealthy. I mean, you're eating tens of thousands of calories every time you do one. Well, originally the point was to have a meal with someone live. It was more of a social thing. But the way it's become, it's almost evolved into an eating challenge. And so they'll fill an entire table with this just absorbent meal. I mean, with just everything you could think of. If they do seafood, they're going to have like 12 different kinds of fish. And it's more of a colorful display and then seeing if they can eat it all while they're just telling you about their day.
Okay.
So he went with an alternative version of that, which was a bunch of vegetables and healthy foods. So that way, even if he was eating a lot, it wouldn't be hurting his body as much.
Okay, yeah, like celery and stuff like that. It's negative calories, so we can see that working pretty well. Yeah, that's cool.
Exactly. And that's why his channel was originally called Nikocado Avocado, because it was, the vegan version.
Okay, okay.
But now here's the part that is unfortunate and the part that's caused all the controversy and it's causing him health issues and just the whole downward slide begins here. He had a fight with, or not, I'm not going to say a fight, but he had a falling out with the vegan community. And in doing so, he felt like he was being trapped within it and that they had this toxic personality that they were trying to force on him. So in doing so, he kind of moved from vegan to vegetarian. And when he did that, he started eating a lot of cheese again. He started eating greasy foods again, fries, things like that. And then from that point, he never really did the vegan thing for the animals' sake. It was more so for health reasons. And since he was already getting into unhealthy foods, he slowly started to get back into meats, which, there's nothing wrong with eating the meats themselves. Some people probably believe so, but for me personally, I think it's a healthy balance of diet. But when he went from vegetables, eating tens of thousands of calories of vegetables even probably, because he ate a lot of food, going from that to Taco Bell and greasy fast food, it really had a negative effect on his body. And then we go further down the rabbit hole, and he went from eating a lot of fast food to gaining weight and being upset about it. And then the community came in and started bashing him for it and telling him how he needs to get his life right, kind of putting him back into that vegan mindset. What he didn't like about the vegan community was happening now in the meat eaters community. Now they were pretty much trying to force him to be healthy again, saying, no, you can't do this, it's bad for your body. But, I understand people wanting to help him and wanting to show him what he's doing is hurting him and kind of, be there for him. But in the way they're doing it, they're this oppressive force. So now he feels like he's being pressed down again. And so then he started eating more, trying to get, pretty much what happened is he started gaining weight and he was really upset about it. And then he felt the pressure from them. And so then he was like, you know what, forget it. I'm going to actually try to gain weight to spite them. Like how he went vegetarian to spite the vegans. He's doing the same thing from the other side now. And now every time he gains a pound, he celebrates. And that's not particularly a good thing when he's having a lot of health issues now.
That's sad. It sounds to me like the fans are saying that sort of thing, not for his sake, but just because they feel bad that they've pressured him to this point.
I would say that's half of it. Half of these comments are coming from his fans. The other half is coming from, and this is the main thing I want to get into, drama channels that think they know best about everything. I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I said it earlier off camera, like, I don't super follow celebrities and stuff, but, I still watch Muda and all that stuff. I hear rumbles of what's going on. and there always seems to be someone with an opinion of, I know what to do here, here's how you fix.
And see, with his
I think
personality type, that's where the problem lies. Because he got out of veganism because he felt like people were telling him what he had to do with his life. And now in the let's just call him the weight loss community. Now they're telling him how he's supposed to live it, so he's combating that again. So now he feels like he's stuck between a rock and a hard place. He can't go back to veganism because they're going to try to force him to live his life a certain way. He can't go, he can't get off the fast food because if he does that, he's giving in to the people telling him how to live his life. He honestly, they've trapped him in an impossible situation,
that's really sad.
and they don't see that. See, here's where the other half of the problem comes in. They think they're helping him. All these people making these videos, they're doing it for one of two reasons. They're either doing it to get on the hype train, kind of get the views from this hot topic, or they're coming in to save him. And in trying to save him, they're hurting him more. And the reason I know that it's not only just from the evidence I've talked about before with him being stuck in the veganism and then actually saying that he's stuck in this now. He never really said it directly, but the way he speaks about them, you can tell he feels like he's stuck in the same situation. And the reason I know this is what's happening is taking my own life into consideration. I don't talk about it a whole lot, but I have had eating disorders in the past. And this is honestly, it falls into the category of an eating disorder and an addiction. Also, he eats what he wants. He enjoys what he's doing. He makes all kinds of money from it. And if he stops the destructive behavior, his life technically could fall apart because people could stop watching, which I don't think they will. I think if he had a weight loss journey, they would actually get a lot more views. But he feels like if he goes on a weight loss journey, not only is it going to be difficult, not only does he have to give up everything he loves, not only does he have to give up the money, he's just going to lose everything just to be stuck in that vegan, miserable situation again, feeling like he's pressured into something. And then he feels like this fast food group won and the vegan side won, and he's the only one that lost.
I have no eating disorder history myself, but just baseline my personality is rejective of authority.
Yeah, so you can kind of understand the pressure part of it.
Yeah, like I mean, honestly, I started having, I had a YouTube channel for a very short period of time, and I ran into a similar thing of there's these factions telling me what to do, and it was like, oh, well, I can't do any of that now, just because I want to do what I want to do.
Yeah. And the part that really bothers me coming from a background of, well, I had basically, it wasn't to the extreme of someone like Eugenia Cooney, which I'm also going to use for an example in a minute, but I did have anorexia at one point. I just didn't eat. I tried to keep my calories under 600. I was very obsessed with being thin and seeing my ribs, seeing my bones. Like, if I wasn't seeing my bones, I felt fat. And coming from that in reverse, them telling him how to live his life, them thinking they're helping him, is the worst possible thing you can do. I know they think that's what you're supposed to do because everyone else is doing it and they're following the leader. But coming from someone with an eating disorder, I mean, it never really goes away. I still have it. And coming from someone who has had an eating disorder and has that in their mindset, if you go on there and tell them how to live their life, you don't come from a place of love. If you don't come from a place of understanding and say, well, I know why you do this, and I wish you wouldn't, and I wish I could help you somehow. If you don't come from that standpoint, you come from, you're killing yourself, stop it. Look what you're doing. How can you not see this? Don't you care about yourself? If you come from that standpoint, they feel like in gaining more weight or in losing more weight, that they're winning, that they're having some kind of control over their life because they're not doing what everyone's telling them to do. It does connect to that in some way, and they're doing so much more harm than the good. All these channels that think they're helping him and they're covering the topic just because it's popular, they're killing him. He might be killing himself, but ultimately they are killing him. They are making his disorder win.
The epitome of the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I know could say that these drama channels, these tea channels, what have you, are there with good intentions, and I can't say that they aren't, but also at the same time, I'm saying they aren't. Their whole existence ultimately hinges on somebody like him having destructive behavior.
I guess that's what I'm trying to say here. If they really care, they need to stop. They need to, if they're going to talk about him, they need to come from a different angle. An angle of, hey man, I know you're going through some stuff. If you need to talk about it, I'm here for you. More than, this is what you're doing wrong, you fix it. It's coming from a point of authoritarian. It's coming from a point of, it's more demanding than instructive, or it really, like I said, it really has to come from a place of love. And if it doesn't, if it is a place of love, nothing else will work and everything else will just make it worse. Because, now let's talk about Eugenia Cooney and how this relates. they keep talking about how ugly she is, how bony she is, how she's making herself look worse. Even though you think you're making yourself look better, making yourself look worse. In doing that, they want to look worse because they're like, well, maybe I look worse because I'm not skinny enough. Even though you told them that's the opposite. The disorder doesn't work like that. You can't say, well, you gain more weight, you're looking worse, because then they're like, well, I'm looking worse, which means that I probably need to do more of it, because in their mind, the only thing that makes them look better is losing or gaining weight, depending on the disorder. And so then they cling to it more and do it more, even though you're telling them that's what's making them look bad, that's what's hurting them. In their mind, that's the only good. There is no other good. And so they cling to it more and do it more to get more of that good to try to fix it. Because the only way for them to be able to acknowledge what is actually better, what is actually good, what's going to actually help them, that's why you really have to focus on that aspect of love, because they have to say, well, this is actually helping me, making me feel better. Someone understands this is the good. You have to replace the good. You can't just tell them what is better. You have to actually physically make their mind believe this is better than the anorexia. This is better than the food addiction. And that's really the only way you'll ever succeed with someone with an eating disorder.
It's not something that I really talk about much, but I had a pretty serious opiate issue at one point. And I think it's possible that what she said speaks to all addiction.
It's just, some people will say that the food addiction is different because it's something we need, but no, food addiction is still addiction. It's the same thing when you finally boil down to the root of what it is. It's still just a normal addiction like everything else. Just like you said, let's use opiates, for example. If you had to have opiates to survive, so you had to have a little bit, it's so easy to get into the addictive side of it, to get to having too much. And then it's hard to get away from that because you can't completely go cold turkey. You still have to have it. So it's so easy to slide back into that. And that's another reason that I feel like he feels like he's stuck. Food addiction's honestly one of the harder ones to escape from.
Yeah, I think though that at the end of the day that all of them end up needing the same solution, so to speak. I use that term very loosely because there's really no, once one has become addicted to something, there is really, it's Pandora's box. There's only opening. You're not shoving that back in there, not completely. You can control it and ensure that your environment is such that you won't fall back into it. But something like food, like, I mean, geez, especially here in America, like, good luck escaping it. Mm-hmm. So I could see that. I mean, at least like with my addiction, I was able to, like, walk away. It's not like you're going to walk down the street and find, opiates laying on the ground.
Right.
Or, you like, it takes realization that there is something better, and that something better is worth giving up the current coping mechanism, I suppose, on some level. Addiction is very clinical, I feel. Mm-hmm. And there's so many different things that lead you to an addiction. It can be food, and it can be drugs, and it can be women or men or fancy jewelry or...
Well, I mean, it's really anything you need. It's honestly, it comes from a need standpoint. It comes from needing something very good to drive you forward. It's all about finding that drive. And when your addiction becomes your drive, your food, your drugs, your women, it's losing that balance of having enough to make that a highlight of your life to making that the only highlight. And in doing so, you overdo that thing. No matter how good that thing could have originally been, you've done it to a level that it takes over everything, to the point where you start losing your health. I think that's really the important part of that.
Yeah. It's such a serious issue, and there are so many people that have a genuine need. I think most of it nowadays is probably social. We're so separated that I feel like a lot of the issues just come from unfulfilled personal lives.
Yeah. Absolutely, and that kind of segues into what we talked about on the last episode about everything kind of coming together into this connected world virtually, and how everything's in the physical world is kind of going to be able to translate into something virtual, which is good for things that we actually can't get a hold of. It'll open up so many more possibilities. Let's say people that just can't travel, or let's say we have another pandemic and we can't travel. You could actually travel virtually to things, and if they get it to the level where you can feel, taste, smell, it won't be as good, but it will be a very good thing to have because some people will just never get to experience that. So now they have these brand new experiences brought to them by the virtual universe, so to speak. But again, the problem in that is you do lose something in the actual socialization, the actual human to human contact, because you're still being filtered through a machine. It's never really going to be you. It's going to be more like an avatar of you instead of an actual one-to-one conversation. And I feel like that's lost a lot in the drama community because they're not looking at as this is people always. They're looking at it more as a topic, something they need to cover, a lesson to be learned. And they kind of dehumanize it sometimes. Not always, but I mean, and it's not always intentional. It's usually not. But they end up talking more about the situation than the actual person, not thinking that what harm could come of them talking about the situation and the person hearing that.
Yeah, I have a pretty low opinion of drama channels. I don't know. I've always wondered what the motivation behind drama channels is, just at large. Why do they feel the need to exist? Why is someone else's life, even just my life, why is my life worth talking about? And not to say there are not lives worth talking about, but I don't see these drama channels, talking about people that are making revolutionary changes to the world. I see them talking about Snoop Dogg and, Kim Kardashian.
I think I know where it's coming from. It's coming from two things. It's coming from an oversaturation of negative news, and it's coming from an oversaturation of the removal of socialization. And so they're needing that. And what I mean by those 2 points is that any news you're hearing is so negative that they kind of have become tone deaf to the news. When they hear the news, like, oh crap, it's just going to be something bad, something that's always happening, and I don't really want to hear it today. So then they turn to something that's more entertaining to them. Like Snoop Dogg's got a new boat and someone fell off the side and they didn't get hurt, but it's like, whoa, I wish that my life was that interesting. Because they're isolating themselves more than they used to. That socialization's not there because they're spending more time on the computer, typing and looking up things. They've lost so much of the world itself has lost so much of that true socialization that they're starving for it. And they look to other people's lives for that, people that are socializing, to kind of live through them by proxy, honestly.
Huh. Okay. That actually, you did a really good job of stating that, because I mean, it was, I've never really understood what it was, and I suppose I've always been I'm okay with solitary confinement, more or less. I could have just one person to talk to for 25 minutes a day, and if they let me jabber their ear off, I'd be good. It's a bit of a change of perspective there. Kind of hurts my brain a little bit, but I do get it.
And I believe the root cause of this is society has moved away from, and again, I'm not against progress, but the human society has moved away from the traditional nuclear family system and more so moved into these new dynamics. The families that just have a single parent is at a all-time high. Families that have multiple parents, multiple families living together. I mean, just the shifts in society, I don't think we've actually really found that place where we all click yet. So we're kind of up in the air. We're in a transition state as a society. And because of that, people don't really know, they don't have that bubble of a family. And a lot of families just aren't as close as they used to be. They kind of go off and do their own thing earlier, and there's so much going on, especially with the way that technology has integrated itself into everything. People's minds aren't always in the physical world. They're not always in the moment. Most of the time, they're 1,000 miles away thinking about this big project they're going to do online, or thinking about their job, or the mindset doesn't focus so much. It doesn't focus so much on the family anymore. And I think in that, people have found a loneliness while they're looking for that next thing, while they're looking for that new settlement. It's so dynamic that they've lost footing. They've lost grounding, and they don't really know where they stand. They're very, what's the word? Conflicted and unstable. Yeah. They don't feel like they have a belonging place. They don't feel like they have a home. They don't feel like they have, and especially online with friend groups, the friend groups change so much. They don't even feel like they have a dynamic friend group anymore, or a solid friend group. It's just whoever they're talking to online. And I think that's why people are looking for socialization so much, and they're clinging to these big names that they know produce a lot because they feel like they get to hang out with someone a lot. It's really caused the advent of the internet and the internet age we're in, transitioning into this digital realm. Everyone is very lonely. And I know some people, they have their little family units, and that's why they're okay with that. That's why they don't have to look into these things. But probably, I would say 60, 70% of people don't have that anymore. And so that 60 or 70% are searching for some kind of family unit online, some kind of friendship online, something solid and permanent. And so that's why they go to these big creators that upload often and have been on there for years. They feel like that's solid footing in a life that is completely uncertain.
And especially where, I mean, even you and I, hundreds of miles apart, you've spoken at least weekly for, long periods of time. And I trust you, but there's always that weird, like, what if we lose the internet?
Mm-hmm.
You know, that could just poof.
Right. It's
That's a
uncertain.
scary thought.
It is.
Yeah, like even among trusted friends and people that we've met and have known for a long time, without a physical presence, I don't know. It really does lead to uncertainty.
I
So
mean,
I can definitely see your point of, yeah, this person is not disappearing and they've been around for a couple of decades. So yeah, I will follow their life.
and I mean, and another side of that, another downside to this digital age is people are forgetting how to build friendships and how to have that unit because that's not their primary world anymore. You have to pretty much rework how you have relationships now because of the internet. And honestly, we got lucky forming our friendship, finding each other and everything because not everybody's going to do that as quickly or at all. I mean, especially if they're not used to making friends because the social awkwardness is at an all-time high due to everything being different now and people not knowing what model works anymore because they haven't had that practice in real life. So it really feeds into itself, and it makes it's creating unintentionally. It's creating a generation that doesn't know how to have that unit, that friend group, that family.
Yeah, I think this might be a weird statement. It's a transactionary generation.
Yeah, exactly. It's a transactionary generation. That is very well put. Absolutely.
That's really sad. It's I do this for you, you do this for me. Now we are friends.
And I think that's why people are
Rather,
so incredibly surprised when you just do something for them out of nicety. They're like, "What? Why are you so wholesome? I don't understand this. Why are you helping me?" Because they're not used to that anymore. Because, like you said, it's a transactionary generation.
hmm.
And that's how we lost the empathy. And that's how we get people like Nikocado Avocado stuck in these situations. We're not thinking about him anymore. We're thinking about, if I tell him this, this will fix this. It's transactionary. And again, I think you just discovered the root of where this is all starting. Because they think if I do A, B will happen, they feel the obligation to do A, even if A is the thing that's causing B, or causing C, and not causing the cure, or the solution to their problem. It's actually what's causing the problem. But in their mind, they don't know the solution because the solution is the thing that they have lost, the empathy.
Which I mean, honestly, like you can't really have empathy with a person until there's just a mutual baseline sharing of past experience and where two parties or more are coming from. And the person who is in this case Nick, who is putting out content, he's just putting out content. He's not. I doubt that he's putting his real self out.
Well, that's another problem as well. They start seeing these people more as characters than actual people. So even if they are going through a problem, all they can see is just the outlying character. So then they approach the problem as if they're talking to the character. Meanwhile, the actual person is drowning because of it.
Person's in there. No, guys, I'm not in character anymore. I am drowning. Somebody get me out, and everybody's just like, poke him with a stick.
Yeah, you're on here to be my product. That is my. I'm giving you the view, so you owe me being able to poke you.
Yeah, and I mean, let us not forget the whole group of people. I have to count myself amongst them, sadly, trolls, just people who, at least at one point or another, existed purely to poke people who existed on the internet. I would challenge anybody to reveal to me their entire internet history and then tell me that they had never trolled. We've all done it. And like you said, I think it probably stems from a lack of empathy due to everything having to be a transaction of some sort.
And in the same token, I mean, it's the lack of empathy, and it's also the impossibility of finding the solution due to there not being a way to have a back and forth. Because if there's 80 people talking about Nikocado today, there's no way that he can watch all of them and reply to all of them in a day. There's too many. With him being an influencer and having all these fans, it's impossible for him to get a fluent, cohesive back and forth for that empathy. Because there's just too many people. There's too much going on. And that's a part of the problem. The fact that he is this online personality and also a person. The online personality is always going to be the one to shine because that's the one he's putting up. That's the product he's putting out. Therefore, he can only be a product to these people. And the only solutions they can think of are solutions through the product. And that would be talking about it. The drama channels. That is the product that goes along with this kind of channel. So they're never able to actually get with him and help him. So because of this mechanism, because the way this whole system is built, he's ultimately going to be trapped in it probably as long as he's on the internet. So he either does have to choose the food and the money, his livelihood, versus his health. And I don't think with the food being so enjoyable and the money coming in, he's going to be able to see giving it up as something that's better. And that right there is the ultimate tragedy of all of this. And the same thing happens with people like Eugenia, Cooney, any of these people who are going through actual health issues due to addiction and due to eating disorders and whatever they're going through. Of course, it's because it's the same thing. The starving and the eating, it's two sides to the same thing. It's you feel like you're accomplishing something by overdoing one or the other. And I hate that I don't know what the solution to that would be other than just disappearing, because it's a system that's going to continue to feed the problem and never the solution.
I think if I could say one thing to any of them, it would be something that I have and will continue to beat you over the skull with for as long as I live. And it's way easier said than done, but do what you love because you love it. And those that actually care about you and what you're doing will stick around and show up.
Absolutely. And if Nick, I mean, if you're listening to this, I doubt that you'll be listening to this, but if you are, if you love to eat, you eat. Don't allow them to have that power over you and make you feel like you're trapped. And honestly, once you get to that point and you have those people that actually really just care about you and they're not bashing you over the head telling you how to live your life, and you listen to those people, maybe in that moment you'll realize that they actually really do care, and you can find something in that empathy to actually help you find a good balance where you can still do what you love and not be hurting yourself. And I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not doing what they're doing. I'm not being a hypocrite here. I'm just saying, if you actually allow people that really do care to be the ones giving you the input instead of just the common decision about how you should live your life, you're going to be able to find that strength to overcome this and still be able to do what you love in a way that won't hurt you.
People that you don't know, you owe them enough. People that haven't been there for you and aren't there for you, you owe them nothing. Not a damn thing. They haven't made you. You've made them. I mean, how many of these people exist around watching your content? Whether they be assholes about it or loving fans that are well-meaning, you owe them nothing. You give their days an escape.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do what you damn well please and fuck the rest.
And listen to me when I say this. It's not the mukbangs. That's not what's keeping your channel going. That's not what's making your livelihood. That is not what you have to do. People love you. This coming from me specifically. I've watched you for your personality. I think you're freaking hilarious. If you just did comedy skits and gave up the food, I would still be watching you. And I guarantee that at least half the people, the ones that aren't doing it for drama but actually really care about you, will still follow you into that and will still support you into that. And honestly, if you still want to retain this audience, I know this again sounds counterproductive, but if you do decide to switch up diet or whatever journey you go on, as long as you bring us on a journey, we're not going to leave. Honestly, most people I know that actually watch him and actually enjoy watching him are there for him. They don't care if he eats or not. They think he's freaking hilarious. They're there for the comedy. They're there for his personality. And I think he's doing himself a disservice thinking that this is the freedom. In going against what people are saying, telling him to stop eating, that's his freedom. He's doing himself a disservice. He's actually trapping himself. He is doing what they want him to do, but in reverse, he's still trapped himself. And doing what he actually wants to do is the only way he's going to actually experience true freedom and actual happiness. That's why you still feel bad about it, even though you think you're doing whatever you want to do and think you have this freedom. That's why you do have these times where you have breakdowns, is because you're not. You're trapped. That's the trap. The trap is that you're not doing what you want to do. You're doing what you feel like you have to do so that you're not doing what other people tell you to do.
I think probably a good chunk of it goes to YouTube needs to reform as a whole. The whole thing is broke.
Not just YouTube, the whole internet, especially if we're going to move into something like meta and live in this meta world where there's all these digital products and our life becomes basically us consuming and making digital products. It's going to have a complete overhaul. Otherwise, we'll lose humanity completely. And then we'll be stuck with a bunch of people who are either really miserable, are completely crazy, or just, I can't see anything good coming out of a pure digital world if we lose our humanity in the process. There's going to have to be some form of human care. There's some element of human care in this whole system. YouTube, Instagram, anything you're on, Meta, whatever. If we don't find that specific system in this transition that we're heading toward, instead of heading into a utopia, we're going to be heading into a dystopia. And it's just as simple as that. It's as simple as adding in that touch of humanity, that empathy, that sympathy into this system. That is the make or break. It isn't that the system's bad. It isn't there's anything wrong with the system. It isn't that the system's perfect if you're looking at it from the other angle. It's just that it needs to be a symbiosis of humanity and technology instead of technology taking over humanity.
You say that really well. There's a cartoon show that, it just had this really crazy, it was an old one, and it had just this crazy utopian imagery and of what the future with technology had as far as potential, and it was harmony with technology. It was technology aiding, not technology doing for. And it was people working with people to help with the technology rather than a group of individuals all pulling levers on various machines to accomplish a task they could just do with their hand.
It's more about the individual, about spirit, so to speak, the actual mind of the individual being a part of this and not the physical body performing the task. I think you captured that pretty well.
It was honestly, it was like, why don't we have that? Because honestly, it was an old cartoon. It was just a group of people in their house was fully functioning just off of mechanical means that were working with the environment. They had, this crazy multi-arm thing that was picking apples from the tree, but it was doing that while they watered the tree themselves. And it just, there was this flow to it that I need to find it so I can send it or something.
Yeah, I mean, as a true integration, it was that the technology was a part of their lives, and people were part of the technology. It was one unit versus building this almost overlord system of technology that kind of humans work through and serve. There doesn't ever need to be the machines serve the people or the people serve the machines. It really, if we want a utopian version of what's coming next, we really need them together as equals. It's weird to say, especially with it being machines and it not always being something sentient, but it needs to be an integration as in it's part of humanity now. It needs to be a part of us as an equal, as an extension of our arm, as an extension of ourselves, or it's going to fall apart or be something completely miserable, because it can't be just there for our convenience, where it feels like it's, especially if it's sentient, where it feels like it's a slave of sorts. There really needs to be a relationship where we see it as part of us instead of something we own or something that owns us.
Yeah, I think that, honestly, that goes beyond just technology, honestly. It's all about ownership and convenience. I own this land so that I can have the convenience of growing my own garden and not having to do X, Y, and Z to get these vegetables. It's all, and even then, we don't even have to do that much anymore. Now it's, I worked this job, so I own this money, so I can go and buy groceries.
I mean, looking at it on a larger scale, like all these companies that purchase this land to make certain things, and then they don't care about the byproduct and the waste actually harming the land because they own it. They don't see it as something that they integrated into. They don't see the other existences, the plants, the animals, the rest of life as being part of them and something that they're connected to. It's something they feel like they're above and they own. And look what that's doing to the planet. Could you imagine what that'll do to people if you bring that into the digital world?
Nothing good.
So with that being said, that is multi-part take on how technology is going to influence the world, how everything going on right now is bringing us into this new renaissance, this new age, another transition into the next stage of humanity, and how we can keep our mistakes from the past, from our past transitions, away from this new transition, and how this can actually be a positive change for humanity instead of a negative. Because it could go either way. It could go either way completely. Again, take care of yourselves. Do what makes you happy when it comes to creation and jobs, anything in life. Don't do something just because you feel like you have to. Never allow yourself to fall into those traps. Do what is best for you and for other people. Take care of each other. Take care of yourself. And at the end of the day, if you do these things and you put yourself and others first and the humanity first, what follows is going to be positive.
Damn straight.
Again, thank you all for stopping by today. Thank you all for tuning in. This has been your host, Grant Reeds.
This has been your co-host, Friendly.
Keep your eyes wide open and never stop reading.